All right, so welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Megan Stair. I'm one of the counselors here at Park Vista. We have Ms. Verano and Mr. Torini with us as well. Today we're going to be talking about the registration process, how your kids are going to sign up for classes for next school year. So before we get started, just real quickly, I'll show you the handouts that you have today. Of course, you have a copy of the presentation so that you can follow along and make any notes that you want to. You also have a draft copy of the course selection sheet. Your students are going to have a course selection sheet that's personally made for them, that's going to be passed out to them through their 5th period teacher. This is just a draft. I'll tell you, we actually have already made a couple of changes since this one has been printed, just making it perfect. But this is a draft that you'll be able to follow along as we talk about the course selection sheet. And then finally, you have a copy of a flyer about our APA School Enrollment Night, which we're going to be talking about as part of the presentation. So the presentation that you're going to see today is very, very similar to what your kids are going to see when they come to talk to us, or they come to meet with us in the auditorium. Registration is a really important process, and we really stress that with them for a couple of reasons. First of all, we want to make sure that they're in the right classes, and this is the process that we use to have them meet with their teachers and get the right recommendations for next school year. Appropriate selection of elective courses. We want to make sure that we're giving them elective classes that they're interested in. This is the way for them to tell us what those classes are. Excuse me. The application process for special programs. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about AP and AICE and what that's going to look like and how kids can sign up for those classes. And then assignment of courses that will meet graduation requirements and post-secondary goals. As part of the process, we as counselors look at the course selection sheet that the students have turned in, and we look to see, are they missing graduation requirements that they forgot about? Are they interested in university and they still need their foreign language, something like that? We're going to go through that with them and help them out. So there's a 4-step process to our registration, our registration process. The first thing is the assembly. Your kids are coming to assemblies next week based on grade level. So they'll come with their 5th period teacher where they will see, like I said, a presentation very similar to this going over the process. And then they're going to receive their course selection sheet, like what you have there. They're going to take that course selection sheet around to all of their academic teachers to get recommendations for the next year's courses. They're also going to bring it home to you so that you can see what classes they're signing up for and make your approvals. Once they've done that, they're going to hand it in to their 5th period teacher. It comes to us in guidance where we go over the course selection sheet, like I said. We're going to input their requests into the computer. They're then going to get a printout of those requests to bring home to you to verify that the requests are correct. And they're going to meet with us in April to make any changes that they need to. So in April, we sit down, they have a one-on-one meeting with their counselor where we look at their course requests, we look at their graduation status, we make any recommendations or changes, and we do that, like I said, one-on-one, so every kid gets a face-to-face meeting with us. And again, that's the same thing. They're going to meet with us personally in April to make changes if they need to. In the meantime, while they're going through the process, while they're getting their signatures from their teachers, if they have any questions, they're welcome to come see us before school, during lunch, or after school, just like any time of the school year. They can swing by and talk to us if they have a question. So there are a couple of things that they're going to need in order to go through the process. So first, of course, is the course selection sheet. They're going to have that with them. They're going to receive it from their 5th period teacher on January 25th. So you should start seeing it with them. They're going to want to keep it in their book bag because, again, they're taking it to every academic teacher to get signatures. So they want to keep bringing it to school with them, but you should see it coming home, and you should be able to start looking at it. It's often helpful as part of the registration process to look at a copy of the transcript. So, for example, when they're thinking about what's my next English class and they're getting ready to talk to their English teacher, they know what classes and grades did I earn before. The same with the math teachers wanting to see previous math grades and so on. So all students have access to a transcript through their SIS portal. So it's a good idea for them to get in there and to download a copy of their unofficial transcript. Online on our website, we have a curriculum guide. What it does is go over every single course that's offered on campus. So So you're looking at what can be kind of overwhelming list of classes there, right? And often we have kids that aren't too sure, well, what is that class really? If you go to our website, Park Vista, the Park Vista main page, pvchs.com, click on the school counseling tab, and then you're going to go to the registration page, and you'll see the course, the curriculum guide there. And they'll be able to look up what's involved in theater, you know, what do they do in AICE business, that kind of thing. They can see a description of every single course. And then finally, as we were talking about the AP AICE selection process and application process, if your child chooses to apply for AP and AICE courses and is accepted into those courses, there's a separate course selection sheet that they'll need that they'll attach to the back of the long legal sheet that you see in front of you. And like I said, we're going to talk about that as we go over the process. So just a summary, the 4 big things that they're going to need: the course selection sheet, copy of the transcript, the curriculum guide, and the AP AICE course selection sheet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of take a deeper look at the course selection sheet itself so that you can see all of the parts. So if you want to take a look there at the front of the page, we use this to select our courses for next year, right? So you're gonna see that your student is going to be getting signatures. They're also going to be marking off the elective classes that they want. If you take a look up at the top of the course selection sheet, you see a blank page, but we're going to automatically fill in this information, so your student's going to have a personalized copy of the course selection sheet. And it just helps to give them, you know, helps to give teachers and helps to give them an idea of where they are as they're choosing classes for next year. So you'll see things like, it'll say how many credits do they have, what's their GPA, things like that. The next section at the top of the course selection sheet has a bunch of directions that it's a really good idea for you to go over with your student and make sure that they understand. We talked to them about it as well, but of course, the more that we review it with them. A couple of the things that you'll see up there, it talks about the course selection sheet, or the curriculum guide rather. It talks about the classes that are in italics. That is a code for classes that are accepted by Bright Futures. So if your student is working towards Bright Futures and needs academic units toward that scholarship, they want to make sure that they're looking and they're choosing academic classes that fit that. Really important, and we talk to our kids a lot about it, electives are selected right now through this process, and they will not be changed in the fall. We don't make schedule changes for electives, and I'll explain to you why we do it that way. We have over 3,000 kids on our campus, so we take requests from 3,000 kids who have 2 or 3 elective classes each that they're requesting. And then we sit down with our master board and we schedule out exactly what they want. And we hire teachers and we make enough sections of the classes to fit their requests. If we then have 3,000 kids come back to us in the fall and change their mind on all their classes, we wouldn't be able to get them into the courses that they need. So it's really important, and like I said, it says it up here, we stress it with them, and we hope that you would stress it at home as well. Choose your electives carefully, because when you go home for summer, we're going to lock those choices in for you, and you're not going to be able to make a schedule change in the fall. Some other things that you'll see in there, the symbol, if you see a $ symbol next to a class, it means that that class is going to ask for a donation as part of the class, so you can just be aware that, like I said, it is a donation, but they are going to request that in the class. Below that, you're going to see a section where you and your student are going to sign, and we're going to ask that you both sign off that you've taken a look at the course selection sheet and gone over the request with your child. Underneath the signatures, you're going to see what we call our scheduling worksheet. So this is where we just help students make sure that they're choosing the right number of classes and that they've told us what they want to do with all 7 periods in their schedule. So if they're signing up for a whole year class, for example, their English class, they might write the English class next to 1 here for first semester and then 1 here for second semester, because that's a whole year class. Sometimes we have kids who want to take a semester of something and they forget to pick what they're going to do the next semester. So this worksheet just kind of helps them make sure, did I sign up for 7 classes first semester, 7 classes second semester? What is really important for them to understand about this section is they're not choosing their periods. So sometimes kids will say, but I told you I wanted math first period. That's not what this is, and we can't do that, right? So again, it's just to kind of help them make sure that they're choosing enough classes. So we're going to walk through real quickly, just taking a look at the classes that they are going to be signing up for. So the first section that you see there is the language arts classes. Again, your child's going to take this to their language arts teacher, who's going to make a recommendation for them next year. Anywhere that you see a blank box on the course selection sheet here on the side, right here, this blank box tells you that somebody needs to sign. Usually it's the teacher, but there are a couple of cases that we're going to look at where it's a parent signature to make an approval. But a blank box tells you that you can't just freely sign up for the class. You need to have a signature. So these are the language arts classes that we're offering. And then next you'll see social studies. So here's an excellent example. With the social studies, we do have several academic electives that students can take without a teacher's signature. So they can just choose to sign up for example, our psychology class. It's a social studies class, it's an academic elective, it's great for college. And you can see that because we've blacked out the box here, they know that they don't need a recommendation for that. However, we are going to ask their current social studies teacher to recommend which level of their graduation requirement social studies class they're going to be taking next year. Math, you'll see there's a section for the math classes. They're going to have their math teacher sign off. Science, the same thing. You'll see that for the science classes, we do have some academic electives in the sciences, but those academic electives do have some prerequisites, so we do ask that they have their current science teacher sign off for those classes. So you'll see that there's a place for teacher signature for all our science classes. Foreign language, we offer both Spanish and French on campus. If your student has passed the FSA, if they're on track with the FSA, then they can sign up for the first level of a foreign language, and they get their English teacher's signature for that to say that yes, they're on track. If they're struggling passing that graduation requirement test, we really want them focusing on that before they turn to a foreign language. So that's why we ask that if they haven't passed the test, that they focus on the reading class and then go to foreign language, and we just have their English teacher verify that for us. If they're currently in a foreign language, of course, the current foreign language teacher would recommend the next level. So multimedia, these are our computer classes. The first level, all of our multimedia classes require that a student starts with digital information technology. This is a course that goes over PowerPoint, Excel, and Microsoft Word. And students have an opportunity to take industry certification tests on those programs, so it's a great class. A lot of our kids take just that class and then don't continue in the multimedias. However, if you do have a student who's really interested in computers, we have digital design where they learn Photoshop, programs like that. We have a web design track, and we have a multimedia track where they're learning audio-visual, where they're making videos and that sort of thing. And all of that starts, again, with that DIT class. They have to have that first introductory class. The DIT teacher would then recommend which track they would go on to. SAT prep. We have an SAT prep class on campus. It's a great opportunity for students who want to have a little extra support, test prep. I'm going to show you that the SAT prep is an excellent example. Sometimes there are some prerequisites for classes, and if you see, we've actually put it right underneath the class there. So in order to sign up for SAT prep, you have to be either a 10th or an 11th grader, and again, you have to be on track with that reading test. We don't want you coming into the college prep reading class if we're still trying to help you out with your high school reading, right? So we're going to have you focus on that high school reading first and then turn for the college prep. But if your student is either a 10th or an 11th grader, then this class might be a good fit. We don't offer the class to 12th graders because just in the college application timeline, most 12th graders are done taking that test in the fall. So it's not really helpful to them to be in an SAT prep class in the spring of their senior year. So again, that class is 10th and 11th graders. Notice that it doesn't require a teacher's signature. It's an elective that a student could just sign up for on their own. Language arts electives. So these are classes that are in the language arts arena. They don't meet graduation requirements for English classes, but they are some electives that your students might be interested in. There are a couple like intro journalism or theater. They can sign up for those on their own. The other classes, you're going to either need a recommendation from the teacher. So for example, for theater, you would need to see our theater teacher, Mr. Van Meter. Or if you wanted to continue in journalism, there's an application process for that. So introductory journalism spends a semester talking about the newspaper and a semester talking about the yearbook. And then students who come out of that class can apply to be on our newspaper or our yearbook teams. The art department. So as you look, students are required to have one fine, practical, or performing art in order to graduate. These are our fine arts. We have a 2D class, which is basically a drawing and painting class. We have a 3D art class. That's going to be like sculptures, mosaics, that kind of thing. And then ceramics and pottery, that's working with clay. So if your students are interested, the introductory levels, they can sign up for those without a signature. In our performing arts, they can join our chorus. We also have a beginning piano, keyboarding. It's called keyboarding. It's a beginning piano class. Meets the art requirement, and they can sign up for that without a signature. If they're interested in upper level chorus, or if they're interested in any of our band programs, they do need to see the chorus or band director for the audition process. PE. So we're going to talk about the high school graduation requirements, but one of them, PE, you have to have a semester of personal fitness and a semester of a PE elective. If your child hasn't done that yet and would like to build that into their schedule, they absolutely can. Some kids just like PE. Some kids like to be physical and have a period where they're out. You can choose PE as an elective. You'll notice here that, that students can have up to one PE class a semester. So they can take one in the fall and they can take one in the spring. But we, in guidance, we don't choose which PE class they go to. So sometimes kids will come to us and they say, I only want PE if I can have weight training. We can't promise that they're going to have weight training. What happens through the scheduling process, we put them in general PE, and then that first week in the PE classes, the coaches divide them up. And it is done based on seniority, so seniors get first pick of the available classes, and then it goes on. The one exception to that, as far as weight training, is if you have a varsity athlete. There are times that the varsity teams are in the weight room, and their coach might sign and ask them to be in the weight room for a period during the school day. We have, one of our academies here is the Automotive Academy, and students that are interested can take the introductory auto class. And so that doesn't require a signature. You can sign up for that. If they start in that class next year and they like it, there is an opportunity for them to apply to continue in the academy. Which is something that if you have a ninth grader who is interested in either of our two auto tracks or our medical track, the application deadline is coming up quickly, so you want to make sure, even if you're an in-house Park Vista student, you have to complete the application process. So it's really important that you log on to the school district website. We have the link through our Park Vista page if you'd like to go there. But like I said, that's for interested ninth graders. You need to make sure that you submit a choice application if you want to be in an academy program. And then just a couple of other options that your students have. Student aid. They can be a student aid on campus. They'll be assigned to one of the offices. They'll be assigned to one of the offices or maybe to a teacher. If they have a teacher in mind that they'd like to work with, they can do that. And then instead of receiving course credit for student aid, what they receive instead are community service hours. So some of our students, particularly kids who've been having trouble earning community service toward Bright Futures, student aid might be a good fit for their schedule. They take a period off and then they earn 75 hours per semester. The one requirement to be a student aide is that you have to have a 3.0 GPA. So sometimes students are really close and we tell them work really hard this semester and try to get there, but you have to have a 3.0 GPA in order to be a student aide. The next class that we're going to talk about, the junior-senior privilege. If you as a parent are choosing to allow your child to have a period off in their schedule, that is an option. For seniors, they can have up to 2 periods off. Juniors can have 1 period off in their schedule, a no class. A couple of things as you're thinking about that. This is one of those classes that requires your approval. obviously we're not going to let your kid leave campus if you don't tell us that's okay with you. So if a kid turns this sheet in, they've marked it off, but you haven't signed it, we're not going to put it on their course requests. Another thing to look at is the requirements to have a no class. In order to have a no class, you have to be on track for graduation, and we've listed for each grade level exactly what that means. How many credits that you need to have, and then of course you have to have that 2.0 GPA. Then finally, we give a big caution to our students about no classes. Here in Cobra Country, for some reason, there's this kind of idea right now that when I'm a junior, I get my 7th period off, and when I'm a senior, I get my 6th and 7th off, and that's just how it is. And we as school counselors would say, maybe that's a fit for you, but for a lot of kids and their post-secondary goals, that's not a good fit. So just keep in mind, anytime you choose not to take a class in your schedule, you're making yourself a little less competitive when you're being compared to those applicants to college who have taken a class in that spot. So make your choice very carefully as you consider whether or not your student should have a no class for next school year. And again, those no classes are only for juniors and seniors. You're going to see on there dual enrollment if your student is interested in taking a period off in their schedule because they'd like to dual enroll in the fall. That is an option. So we are going to have a dual enrollment assembly coming up. We encourage all students to sign up for that assembly. Sometimes kids say, well, I've already been at the college, so I don't need to come to the assembly. But every semester we give them the updated timeline, we give them any rules that have changed. So even if your child has already been in the program, we would ask that they come to our assembly. It's going to be on February 5th. So we'll ask them to come in and sign up in the guidance office. Some of the requirements for dual enrollment, they have to have at least a 3.0 GPA, not HPA, it's got to be a GPA. And they have to have college-ready test scores. So that's really important.
What is that? I'm sorry, what does that mean?
We're going to talk about it at the assembly. Yeah. Oh, no, you're fine. But those are all the details that we're going to go over both at the dual enrollment assembly with your kids and if you come to AP AICE dual enrollment night. So there are specific college-ready scores either on the ACT, SAT, or PERT. Those are the 3 tests that they could use to qualify. Like I said, at both of those other venues, we'll have it broken down for you so you see exactly what it is. So February 5th, if your child's interested, they should definitely plan on coming, but they need to sign up in the school counseling office first so that we can give them a pass. And then virtual classes. So one other thing that your child might be interested in is taking a virtual class in place of a class on campus. So if that is the case, they are going to mark it off on their sheet. They need to have your approval to do that. And they need to tell us which class they're planning on taking in the fall. Because we don't want a student to just say, oh yeah, I'm going to do something. If they're choosing to take a Florida virtual class in place of something on their campus, or on our campus rather, we want that to be a part of their educational plan. We want there to be a reason why they're choosing to do that. And so that reason would mean they would have to know which class they're signing up for, right? Here's our big warning. Again, we, in the school counseling office, we see students have this feeling, I'm supposed to have the class off, so I'm just going to take my 7th online because I'm supposed to have it off. And we would encourage you to make that decision very carefully with your student. Overall, on Florida Virtual, our trend is pretty consistently less than half of our students finish a class they sign up for. So they start the class, they don't finish it, and they don't get the credit. We're not going to stop you. Your child has the right to sign up for an FLVS class. So if you give them that permission, we're not going to stop your child from doing it. But we would encourage you again to think carefully because we do have students who put themselves in danger of graduation. For example, they decide, I don't want to take my English 3 class on campus, I'm just going to do it online. Then they don't finish it, and now they come back to a senior year and they're down in English credit. And we have to figure out, are we putting you in junior English now? Are you signing up for it online again? What are you doing? How are you making up that deficit, right? So it's super important. Online classes, we live in a digital world where our kids just think, well, I'm on my phone all the time, so online classes are going to be so easy. but they aren't. They are just as rigorous and sometimes more rigorous because you don't have as easy of an access to your teacher, right? I'll give you a great example is our Algebra 2. We have a lot of kids who are like, I'll just take Algebra 2 online, it'll be fine. Imagine if every time you had a question about Algebra 2, you had to email a teacher and get an email back or talk to them on the phone. It's just not the best, most efficient way to learn, right? And we see that a lot of our kids, especially with math, they might finish the class successfully, but then they're not as prepared as they could be to go on to the next level in that area, right? So for some kids, Florida Virtual is a great option. We just want to make sure that you're fully informed and that you have a real conversation with your child about why they would be making the choice to have FLVS. It's also important to know that if they tell us, I'm going to take a class on Florida Virtual instead of a class in my schedule, and then they don't finish that class, we're not going to approve them to take a class the next year because they still owe us a class, a credit, right? And we got to get them back on track for graduation. So that's another important thing to talk to kids about. So we're going to kind of shift and we're going to look, quickly we're going to go through some of the graduation requirements so that you know what your kids should be doing in order to be on track for graduation. So the basic standard high school diploma requires 24 credits. Students have to have a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. There are 2 testing requirements. They have to pass the 10th grade FSA for English language, and they have to pass the Algebra 1 EOC, or earn a concordance score on one of those 2 tests, or for those 2 tests. They also need 20 hours of community service, and they have to complete 1 online class. So this is a breakdown of of the specific classes that your students need in order to graduate. Again, these are the bare minimums. We're going to talk in a few minutes about what they should be signing up for if they're college bound. But this gives you an idea of the bare minimum requirements. They have to have 4 Englishes, they have to have 4 maths, they have to have credits of social studies, 8 elective classes. One of the misconceptions that we've seen on campus is foreign language. Foreign language is not a high school graduation requirement. So if your student is struggling in the foreign language and they're just trying to get their diploma, the foreign language is not required. What it is required for is university admission. So if your student is college bound, going to a 4-year university, going to an FAU, USF, UF, they do need to have those 2 years of a foreign language. It's also required if your student's interested in Bright Futures. 2 years of a foreign language is required for Bright Futures. We encourage our 9th and 10th graders to take that FSA and the EOC very, very seriously. First of all, because of course it is a graduation requirement, so we'd like them to pass it and not have to worry about it again. But we also use that data to help us make some decisions. For example, a lot of the English teachers, when they're considering whether or not to recommend a student for the next level of AICE English, they're going to look at their FSA scores and see, well, how proficient are they in those basic reading skills before I approve them taking a college level English class. So they should definitely take those tests very seriously. Also, we do schedule our level 1 and 2 students into a support class to help them get ready to pass that test. So again, they are very important. For 11th graders, they're going to take a school day SAT in March. Same thing. They should take that test very seriously. Sometimes when they don't have to pay for an SAT, we see our students don't think it's as important as a Saturday SAT, but that's not true. It's the SAT. So it gives them a free opportunity to earn a college-ready score if they're interested in dual enrollment. If they haven't passed the FSA yet, they might earn a concordance score toward graduation. It is something they'll be able to send score reports to colleges, so it can be their first, their first college prep test that they take as part of the college application process. So they definitely should take that opportunity very seriously as 11th graders. We sign them up here on campus. They don't have to sign up on their own. We do the SAT registration process for that 1 school day test. Juniors who are interested in taking the ACT or taking an additional SAT on a Saturday, they would do that on their own through the website. But you don't have to worry about the school day test. And so then just kind of going, again, with graduation requirements, online course. So One of their requirements is that they have to complete an online class. We've already talked a little bit about the rigor of an online class and how that might not be a good fit for everyone to take an academic class, but we do have a lot of easy elective credits for students. Some of these can be a real good fit because they can get them finished pretty quickly. Driver's Ed is our fastest class. They can get in and out of that super quick. Personal family finance, parenting skills, social media, outdoor education. These are all one semester electives that go pretty quickly. They're technically semesters, but they don't take the full 18 weeks that an academic class would. Something important to note about the way that the law is written, the graduation requirement law, it says that a student has to take a complete class. So if they sign up for a class that has 2 semesters, they haven't taken the complete class until they take both semesters. If they sign up for one of these electives that's only 1 semester, that 1 semester is the complete class, and they've met the requirement. There's no problem with your student taking a 2-semester class. They just want to make sure that they're aware before they sign up for it. I have to have both semesters before it meets my requirement. And then just letting you know the process a little bit, they're going to sign up for the class on their own through the website. We have detailed instructions for them and guidance. They're on our website if you need to see them. Once they do that, it's going to tell them that they need guidance verification. We in the counseling office, we automatically do that every day. We all log in, we look at our students, what they've requested. Basically what they're asking us is, have they already taken this class or are they taking it right now? And as long as, you know, it's a class like driver's ed or parenting skills or something like that, that there's no conflict, we're going to automatically approve that class and you don't have to do a thing. Once we've approved it, FLVS is going to start looking for a teacher as close to the start date that you gave them. So when you register, they're going to ask you, when would you like to begin the class? You can choose as early as tomorrow. You can choose as far out as up to like 3 months away. So they're going to, whatever date you told them, I'd like to start this class, they're going to be looking for a teacher and try to pair you up as close to that date as possible. But they do the best they can, and they work on rolling admission. So sometimes classes get full, and they don't have a spot in the class, and the student has to wait until a spot opens. We encourage that kids look at their account every single day. Have I got a teacher yet? Have I got a teacher yet? As soon as they see that they've got a teacher, they should contact that teacher and let them know, I'm ready to get started. What is it that you need to do to get me in the class? If a course request hangs out there and they get assigned a teacher and they're never activated in the class, FLVS will automatically kick them out. They'll automatically leave the class. They'll lose all of the work that they've done to that point. Some of the classes will let you do the first couple of assignments without being active, but if you're never activated, like I said, you lose it. So it's really important that kids are paying attention to that. As soon as they see a teacher, they should definitely contact them to get started. And then FLVS is a separate school from us. They're an independent high school, just like St. Lucia's or Olympic Heights or wherever. They're going to automatically send us a transcript to transfer the grade to their Park Vista transcript. You won't ever see the grade in SIS. You won't ever see it on a report card, if it's through FLVS, I should say. Sometimes the Palm Beach virtual classes, and I don't know, Mr. Trini, did we see that?
Yeah, they show up on the schedule.
The Palm Beach virtual. So you might, if they do the Palm Beach franchise of Florida Virtual, you might see a class on there. But for FLVS, you won't be seeing that in SIS. You'll see it through your parent portal for FLVS. So there is, if you just Google FLVS parent account, it should take you to the page to set up. Do you have your own parent account?
Yeah, but then when she took driver's ed with Florida Virtual, I don't see her grades. Her grades don't show up on my portal.
Yeah, that's something you'll have to contact them about. I'm sorry. Yeah. Just quickly, as far as the graduation requirements on both the online course and the community service, the 20 hours of community service, are graduation requirements that they have to have done by senior checkout in order to be approved for graduation. But we also have a couple of deadlines for them. We're looking to encourage students to finish graduation requirements, and so we want to reward those students who are on track for graduation with activities on campus. So if your student is interested in parking their 11th grade year here on campus, if your student's going to be a junior and they want a parking decal, they have to have their 20 hours of community service finished. If they're a senior, an incoming senior has to have both the service hours and the online class. So we have some students who were able to park on campus their junior year, but then they come back and they can't buy their decal for senior year yet because they haven't finished their online class. So again, if you just encourage your kids, the same is true for senior activities. You won't be allowed to buy grad bash, prom tickets, all of those fun things that they want to do. They need to be on track to graduate to participate in. So we're going to be checking to make sure that they have those community service and online class credits taken care of. So we're just going to move on. So those were the graduation requirements. We're going to look at a couple of other situations, a couple of other things that you might be looking at as you're building your schedule with your student. And one is they might be in a deficit of credits. Maybe they had a tough transition to high school and they missed a couple credits freshman year. Maybe it was just one class during band season, whatever it is. Sometimes our kids are kids and they make some mistakes and we need to go back and fill in some holes. The two big ways that they can do that are either building it into their school schedule or choosing to take it through an online provider. So let's say that your student failed first semester of chemistry this year and you'd like to have them make up that credit. They can choose that on their course selection sheet and they can go back into a classroom and they can be with a live teacher teaching them that first semester of chemistry over. Another option would be to take it through one of the online providers. So FLVS is our most commonly used online provider. The benefits of using FLVS, because they're taking the full class over, it is approved by universities. The NCAA will accept the credits. It's the full class all over again, just as though you were in the classroom. However, FLVS classes, because you are taking the full class over, they do take more time and they are really rigorous. We do have a credit recovery program for students who aren't on track to graduate, who need accelerated credit recovery. This is not the best option for student athletes. It's not the best option for university-bound students, but it is an option for a student who's missing requirements and needs to get back on track for graduation. So just briefly, the requirements for university. So we talked about what your student needs to have in order to graduate, but these are the bare minimum requirements in order to be accepted into a university. Now, we do stress with students that these are the minimum requirements. So everyone who applies to a university is going to have this on their schedule. Your student, depending on what university they're applying for, they are most likely going to want to choose to do above and beyond this as they make themselves as competitive as possible, right? For example, you have to have a minimum of 3 years of social studies in order to apply to a university. But there aren't many students that are accepted at FSU or UF if they've only taken 3 credits of social studies throughout high school, right? So you're going to see that FSU actually has on their website a breakdown, and it says, you know, the average student who gets accepted there, they have 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6 credits of these academic classes. Not in all areas, but again, you're going to see they're going to be taking, the sciences are an area we see a lot of kids doubling up on science. So they take chemistry and anatomy the same year, or you know, they take AP Chem and AICE Environmental, doubling up on some of those academic units. This is the bare minimum. You want to make sure that they've reached this in every subject area, but we would certainly encourage them to continue filling their schedule with academic units that are going to get them prepared for college. So the reason that we want them to be signing up for these great classes is because college admissions officers tell us how important high school rigor is in success in college. And that's why it's something that they're looking for as they review the transcript. So you can see that there have been numerous research, this is just one quote from one study, but numerous research studies have been done just kind of comparing what is it that happens in high school that helps kids be successful when they get to university. And the number one thing that we're seeing is rigorous curriculum. Colleges define rigorous curriculum in 2 ways. The first thing that they would say is the number of academic units. So they're going to look to see how many academic classes have you taken. AP Chemistry, for example, is going to be one of our toughest classes on campus. It's a really rigorous class. But if you take AP Chemistry and then 6 sections of PE, that wasn't necessarily a very rigorous schedule, right? So one of the things that they're definitely going to look at is that you're taking academic units, a minimum of 5 a year. This is especially important for seniors. So seniors feel like, I've done my work and now senioritis, I don't need all 5 credits on my schedule. But the colleges are going to be looking for a minimum of 5 as they're reviewing your senior schedule. And if you think about it from their point of view, they're looking at a pool of applicants and they're trying to pick the kids that are best prepared to come to their campus and be successful. And if a student has taken their senior year off and maybe they haven't had a math class, how successful are they going to be in college level math when they haven't seen a math problem in a year and a half, right? So the colleges are saying, make sure that you're keeping up your skills and that you take a minimum of 5 academic classes. The other thing that they're looking for is the rigor of the class itself, right? Like how challenging is the material that you're learning. So this is where you'll see that on that yellow flyer, we've given you a copy of this. One of the really great opportunities for students who are considering adding challenging courses to their schedule, we would suggest that they come and see us at APA School Enrollment Night. Those are our 3 big kinds of accelerated classes. Going into a lot of details about the classes, that's kind of beyond the scope of what we're doing today, but that's what we do at this presentation. So we're going to talk to you about what's the difference between AICE and AP and dual enrollment, what kind of students are a good fit. We do a whole presentation going over all of that acceleration. And then what we do is adjourn to the gym, where all of the AP AICE teachers that have classes that your student might be able to apply to, they set up tables and they have course descriptions and they're there to meet with your kid, answer any questions. So maybe your student is thinking, should I do AICE Marine Science or should I do AICE Environmental Management? Well, they can go and talk to those 2 teachers and find out what are those classes about and make up their mind. So it's a really great opportunity for kids that are looking to increase the rigor, increase the challenge of the classes in their schedule. Just briefly, so that you know, we're kind of opening up a new opportunity this year for our students. So we have had a CAP and a pre-CAP program for several years now. Our CAP program was a specially designed set of courses that included both AICE classes and AP classes, but set up those students to be in a position to earn the AICE diploma. This year, students who maybe weren't in those predefined tracks, but have been taking some AICE courses and would be interested in receiving the AICE diploma from Cambridge, they are going to have the opportunity to pursue that opportunity, to pursue that diploma. We're expanding that program. So just to give you some basic information, the AICE diploma is awarded by Cambridge University, and they say that you have to pass 7 exams in order to achieve the diploma. You must have at least 1 exam, 1 passing grade in the first 3 groups. So you'll see here the list of the 4 different groups of classes that they offer. You have to have at least 1 class in each of the groups. This here shows you what classes are offered here on Park Vista, or here on our campus in each of those areas. So kids have to have 7 of those classes and have to pass the exam in at least 7 of those. So if your student might be interested, we're looking at sophomores and juniors. You'll notice that one section, or one group, group number 2, is the languages. We do teach AICE Spanish and AICE French on our campus. However, realistically, there aren't very many of our students who take those classes. However, there's a huge population, our 10th graders, who've taken the AICE English language test. So that's a really good measure for your student, because they have to have at least 1 credit of English language. If your child was successful or is currently being successful in English language, this might be something that they want to think about. So current juniors, if they have passed that AICE English test, and they have at least 2 other classes, 2 other AICE tests from 10th and 11th grade, they should see their guidance counselor, because we're going to want to talk to them about what we would need to get for them for their senior year, and we're going to help them pick those classes. We're going to talk to them about the application process. They should come and see us. Interested sophomores should be in English language right now, and they should do everything that they can to make sure they're studying really hard and that they do very well on that test. And then they should also sign up for at least AICE US History and AICE Literature, English Literature. Those are the 2 classes for our junior year that are AICE level courses, but we offer them in place of honors classes. So they don't have to apply for these classes through the application process. They're going to get a teacher recommendation. These are our honors level academic classes here. but they are at the AICE level, and a student is successful. If we see that at the end of their junior year, they've passed those exams, or they're on track to pass those exams, they might want to consider moving on for an AICE diploma. Are there any general, I should just stop, any general questions about the AICE diploma? Is that it? Okay.
What about pre-ACE?
Pre-ACE. So pre-ACE is like our honors level English, like pre-ACE English language. That's an honors level class. If your ninth grader has been successful in pre-ACE English, there's a really good chance that your teacher is going to recommend that they go to ACE English 10th grade year.
What's the benefit of getting ACE diploma?
So that's something that we're going to go into a lot of detail at ACE Wednesday, but just generally speaking, so it is a set curriculum. It's like getting an IB diploma. It's a certification that you've taken a college preparatory set of classes, so it looks great on your resume. You do have the opportunity, because you've taken so many classes, you've earned college credit by passing those tests. Then of course the big one is Bright Futures. And that's probably what your kids have probably mentioned. So there are requirements for Bright Futures. You have to have, in order for a general ed student to receive the Bright Futures Scholarship, which is that really awesome scholarship for Florida high school graduates who are going to Florida schools. There's a testing requirement, there's a GPA requirement, and a community service requirement. If you receive the ACE diploma, you do not have to have the GPA or the test scores. You only have to have the community service. Quite honestly, our ACE students typically don't struggle too much with the GPA, but sometimes we see some of our ACE students didn't quite get the SAT score that they needed. And this is a great way for you to ensure, because the ACE diploma plus the community service gets you Bright Futures.
So the ACE scores come out kind of later in the summertime. But when you're applying to colleges and you're having, like if they're already a junior and have to take more classes as a senior, they
Right.
can't really say they're getting the ACE diploma on their
Right. Okay, so are you talking about the colleges, or are you talking about Bright Futures, or are you talking about both?
It's not necessarily Bright Futures.
Okay.
Just talking about like college applications. So you
Right.
apply that next year, but they're taking the ACE classes because they didn't start as a
Sure. So their transcript, or I'm sorry, their application is going to list the current courses that they take as a senior. So they're going to have those ACE classes there. But in terms of earning college credits, colleges are very well aware that those ACE scores don't come out. And so there'll just be a hold on their transcript where they, before they put those grades, before they put those scores on their transcript. But that is not a problem as far as earning the credit at college. No.
signing up for classes though.
Right. So you'll be able to show, they'll make decisions based on the classes that they've already taken and knowing whether or not that, but as far as, are you talking about like they finished 1101, so now do they need 1102?
Something like that. Like you can't sign up or skip until you get your score that you passed your AICE. The AICE grades come out very
Right. Yeah, do you know how they usually?
For most of our ACE students, it's not a big deal because
Right.
they finish junior year. They're taking an ACE. ACE does come later than the AP scores, so they're going to come in August. It's probably going to require a schedule change at the college, so that's basically what it's going to be. But they will be in before fall term starts.
Okay, and then so just quickly going over, depending on the grade level, what should your student be signing up for? Incoming 12th graders, this is what their schedule should look like. They're going to need an English. They're going to need a social studies. Senior year social studies is half a credit of economics and half a credit of American government. A lot of our seniors do still need a math for graduation. Certainly college-bound seniors should also be taking a math. They should be taking a science. You do have the opportunity to sign up for a no class if that fits with your student's educational plan. And then of course students who have the 3.0, they might choose to be a student aide, like I said before, especially some of those students who are trying to get bright futures, who need those community service hours. For 11th graders, incoming 11th graders, they're going to have an English, a math, they're going to have a science class. There's a credit of U.S. history, that's the 11th grade social studies class is U.S. history, and then they have 3 spots for electives. Again, they can have up to 1 class, they can have 1 class off as a junior. We do have that SAT, ACT prep class for juniors as well that is a good fit that you might want to think about. And then for 10th graders, if you have a rising 10th grader, they're going to have an English class, a math class, a science, they're going to have world history, and then they have 3 electives to fill. Again, keeping in mind, depending on your post-secondary plan, that's what you would want to make those elective choices very carefully, right? So college-bound students, they're taking a minimum of 5 academic credits, and they're trying to increase the rigor, the challenge of the class every year. So just a reminder for our students, as we finish up the presentation, remember I said this is basically what they're going to see. February 22nd is the deadline that we've given teachers for your students to have the sheet back to their 5th period teacher. So by February 22nd, they should have it finished. If they don't hand in a sheet, we as their counselors are going to pick their classes for them. We don't want to do that. We don't like doing it. And they don't like what we pick often. So we encourage them, please, we want to know what you want. Please make sure you hand in a course selection sheet. If we choose their classes for them, that's it. Those are their classes. There are no changes later. There's no schedule change. Oh, but I didn't really like this class. Well, you didn't tell me that when you had the opportunity. And then, of course, if they have any questions, remember, we are going to be meeting with them in April to confirm their choices. But as they go through the process, if they have any questions, we're in the office before school, after school, during lunch, every single day. You never need an appointment to see your school counselor. You just come by, a student just comes by the office. If you as parents have questions as you're going through the process, I'm going to be really honest with you. We have, each of us have almost 600 students on our caseload. So it is literally physically impossible for us to have 600 private parent meetings to go over course selection. That's why we do things like this. That's why we put all the stuff on our website. So unfortunately, we don't schedule one-on-one conferences to discuss course selection, but we're absolutely here to answer your questions. If you want to call or send us an email, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Like I said, we're just not going to be able to meet one-on-one with you in the office.